Hey there, everyone. This is Chris McDonald. I've got Roger Bradshaw with me and James Harris on the back end as well. Today, we're going to be doing our Timer Tip Tuesday on cross-country events in race day scoring. Still have a couple people joining us. So for those of you that have not been using GoToWebinar before, you have a piece on your right that you can ask questions, raise your hand, things like that. So if at any point you have a question about what we're talking about, feel free to drop it in there. Or after the fact, if you have additional questions or want to set up a training or something like that, you're welcome to reach out to me, Chris at RunSignup.com. And then obviously, most of you that have been using Race Director previously know how to get up with Roger, but that's Roger at RunSignup.com. And I mean, for those of you that know, Roger built Race Director from the ground up, and it's kind of on the forefront of scoring in general for races. So it's always a pleasure to have him on. So I think we've got everybody that's going to join. So we're going to go ahead and get started. If you guys have, oh, give me one sec. Roger might have a couple of audio problems. So if that's the case, I'll do the whole thing. No big deal.
Yeah, I'm good.
Oh,
I'm good now, Chris. Sorry about that.
We got Roger. Excellent. So for those of you that that were on the Timer Tip Tuesday that Matt Avery did, it's coming up on a year ago, it feels like, on cross country events. This is a general review of that. We wanted to get it out as quickly as possible at that point, but we also realized that cross country season had already started and that most timers weren't going to make that transition midstream. So our goal today is hopefully to get some of you that have been using race day scoring for your other events to see the application for cross country with your upcoming season here in the late summer, early fall. So why do we build it? We love cross country at RunSignup, and I think most of you guys know Bob ran cross country very competitively in high school and college, and a ton of our employees at RunSignup ran as well. And on top of that, for you guys that are timers, most of you have at least one cross country race a year. Now, for those of you that are neck deep in cross country, you'll laugh at the idea of having one a year. You might have 5 on a day. But the reality is that the average timer that's timing more than, like, I don't know, 10, 12 races a year probably has a cross country race that they're helping out with, whether it be middle school, high school, or university, or just a club event that might have different scoring principles. And this also takes advantage of the team result build out that our dev team did a huge work on in 2020. And that allows you to more easily access individual results from team results and back and forth. And then obviously it's a great community. It's also one of the feeders into running in adulthood. So by fostering, middle school, high school, college cross country, we're obviously hoping to continue to grow the sport of running so that we continue to be able to put on races. So what's in?
I just wanted to inject a couple things there real quick, Chris, so you can go back to the slide. Just want to make sure everyone's aware that Matt Avery is our product owner for all the race day scoring things that we do, and that's actually a picture of him there. So it's true and dear to his heart also what we're doing here. And the other thing I want to mention here is that Roger, he's spent so many years perfecting cross country and in the software that he did with Race Director, and a number of you hopefully on the line here have used Race Director over the years. And so it was a big benefit for us as we developed race day scoring to really have Roger bring all that expertise and to the forte. And he created a lot of automated test scripts and different things for us that really helped us get our cross country scoring right. So again, I just wanted to kind of highlight those two aspects to cross country being built for race day scoring.
Yeah, If you don't know Roger, you're missing out. He really does know just about everything there is to know in the timing and the scoring platform world. So what's in race day scoring? So cross country has a lot of very unique but fairly consistent set of rules. So which was not in the very initial build out of race day scoring. Some of those being the rules in there now are the ability to build out flexible team and team type relationships, be able to just do displacement calculations, automated switching of event based on finish time of day. So that's something, you know, when your coach won't make decisions about JV versus varsity, you can use data actions to move those around. Automatic posting of results to run sign up for both individual and team results. We do support NCAA tiebreaker rules and TFERS results submission. What's still on its way? Obviously, we'd love to have everything all at once for every single product that RunSignup and Race Day Scoring launches. But as with everything, we're always developing. We're always trying to, you know, sharpen our tools and make the best product possible. And so we do have some things that are still out that are on their way. One of which being the finish links event file generation from within race day scoring. If you're not a links timer, this might not make any sense. But for those of you that are and want to use scoreboard outputs and things like that from links, this is on its way. It is a fairly big project. And so we just didn't want you to think that it's something that was overlooked. It is something that's being looked at. And the cross-country announcer, and then also unattached runners having a do not score setting are all in the mix right now. So some definitions. Team scoring has a lot of moving parts, so some definitions with team scoring. Now there are some things to remember. Team types and team scoring rules work differently when you're doing a relay versus aggregate. Think of a relay as, you know, like a triathlon where you have a swimmer, a biker, and a runner, and they're passing that chip along. So it's really only using one entity, versus aggregate scoring is where everyone completes the event and you're adding those results together. So we're going to be focusing on team options specific to cross country, which is aggregate scoring today. So definition for teams are teams, a simple group of participants. Some of these teams are used for scoring. Other times are just social. Obviously, cross country is not social teams, or at least in the middle school, high school, collegiate divisions, they're not social teams. And they can have members from different registration events, which means there might be racing in, you know, the JV event, the boys event, the girls event, you know, varsity event, what have you. The teams can have a team bib chip number, but are not required to. And teams always are a part of a single team type. So where can you find teams? So hopefully all of you recognize this page to your left. Is the back end of Race Day Scoring. So at this point, we've clicked into our participants here. So the third thing down, and then we're clicking on teams. And once we click on teams, we see all the different teams that are there. Once we click on a team, so from here, I clicked on AAA Lawn Care, you would see that team membership, there are 7 team members, and you see these 5, you can go onto the second page and see the rest of them. So you also can see the reg group type or the classification. So you've got your Division 1, Division 2, and this is like a team size division. You can also see that some of these are including multiple event. So team classifications, team types and classifications. Team types are a way to group together teams. This is most commonly used for large school, small school designations. And we create those group types automatically from RunSignup, but you can add them in Race Day Scoring as well. And we also support new team types when importing a spreadsheet of participants and teams. We realize that most of these cross-country events are not going to be online registration events at the RunSignup level. I mean, some might be, but the likelihood is low. And so the whole idea of being able to import this information from CSV, we realize is imperative. So any single event can have multiple team types within it. For example, a 9 a.m. race can have a small group team type, a large group team type in it, competing together, but they are split out for scoring. And it's also possible to combine team types for scoring for the members of teams within that team type that share the same event. And so team types have team scoring rules, and we're going to get into that as well. So once we're in there, we can click on team for age groups and team classifications here. We can click on team classifications, and you can see a breakdown of the team types in there. And once you click in, you can name the scoring team type. You can put a description of it. You can select which scored events that these people will be in, scoring type of aggregate. Do you want to use cross-country scoring? This is kind of a set standard of for cross-country is yes. And then you have your tiebreaker rules, your team time displays, how you want to score by depth. Most people are scoring 5 and displacing an additional 2. So 5 and 7 are your normal settings. And then you also have other factors in different states or different conferences or divisions. You might have different rules in which you're going to be scoring these folks. For instance, in some cases, if your school doesn't qualify as a team, you might still be able to displace others. And so this allow under minimum to displace yes would be if you showed up, if your minimum team size was 5 to score, and your team showed up with 3 or 4 to finish, and then that would allow you to displace people down. They can require gender selection of male, female, or co-ed, and then you can put size rules for the group. Usually, we won't have that many of the size rules for school cross-country, but you might have some of this for a club cross-country. Same with age rules. You're probably not going to have that for school. You're going to have that for age. And so on the import, you really don't need that much information. You're really just going with, first name, last name, the event they're going to be in, the team they're on, their school year, a lot of times is in there, and their gender. So yeah, it's not nearly as much to import as, say, an open 5K where you've got all kinds of information about their registration and how to contact them, stuff like that. So aggregate teams, there are 2 main team classification scoring types, and that's aggregate and relay. Kind of already talked about that. And so cross-country score is aggregate scoring because we're adding up the positions for each runner on a team and generating a single team score, which we base our team rankings on. So for cross-country, when you set things up, you're going to select aggregate team scoring type, and you're going to select cross-country and click yes. And then you decide if you need to break out reports by gender. And so you would do this if you have a race start with boys and girls in the same race starting at the same time. Obviously, you don't need to do this if you have 2 completely separate races. So you would just have, race 1 or whatever, the boys race at, 9 o'clock. There would only be boys and like middle school boys in that race. And then maybe it's 30 minutes later or 20 minutes later, the girls run. And so which tiebreaker method to use, again, that's dependent on where you are and what type of cross-country event you're scoring. And then which team time display do you prefer? So all of those are on that section. So you then have tiebreaker rules. That's your next best finisher, best last scored, cumulative time. And then NCAA rules are head-to-head. And then, like we talked about, that's scoring depth, and that's by scored event. So your scoring depth on average, now granted, I understand that some have full displacement, some score 3 deep, everything's different. So, but the average team scoring depth is depth of 5 with displacing through 7. And for those of you new to cross country, what that means is places 1 through 5 score points, and then places 6 and 7 don't score points. So those points don't go towards the overall score. However, their scores still stand in the record, so that if they, let's say your team went 1st through 7th, if you're displacing through 5 only, then the next finisher would get 6 points. If you're displacing through 7, then your next finisher would get 8 points if your team went 1 through 8. So allow under minimum to displace, we talked about that. And then ghosted runners, it fills out incomplete teams with ghost runners with the same time as the last finisher on that team. Aggregate team rules can be set up at a scored event level and then sent down to the individual team types associated with that scored event, or they can be customized at the team type level. And then when changing or saving the team rules, we delete and regenerate reports based on that new setting. And you'll see that here in a second. So once you've got everything set up, you're likely going to go back in and you're going to click on your scored events here. And then for this event, happens to be college women. And so we click on team scoring. And when we do that, it opens up an additional set of options. And so our team scoring type is going to be aggregate. Used cross-country scoring is going to be yes. Separate report sections by gender is no. Well, why is it no? Because if we go back, this is college women only. So we have college men here, but this event is only pulling from the people registered for the college women event. So we do not have to separate those by gender. You're going to score these team types by total time. Tiebreaker rule, this is college, so head-to-head NCAA. Team display is going to show average time. Scoring depth by scored event. And then scored event depth, like we talked about, 5 and 7. So once you get all that, you hit save. It'll have this weird pop-up. And it says the following reports must be deleted prior to saving this. If you don't wish to delete these reports, click go back. So when you hit delete and continue, it rebuilds these reports. And it rebuilds these reports to pull the data appropriately for the settings that you set up. So in most scenarios, you're wanting to click delete and continue because it's deleting these reports at the report level, so on your report screen, and it's rebuilding them to include that team data and those team filters. And so my suggestion to you, when you're going and setting all this up, make sure you set up your teams and set up this information first before you go in and start manipulating all of the reports. Because if you go in and you start changing all the reports and everything like that first, you're going to end up, it could throw things off, because when you create those team parameters, you're going to need those included in your reports. And I know you did a lot of work, but you didn't include those potentially. So you want to come in here, delete and continue. So this cut off at the edge, but it says reports have been deleted. And so then you have the ability to apply scoring rules to all team types, which again, most of the time, that is exactly what you want to do. So you want to update team types. And I think going into reports, I'm going to pass the baton over to Roger. And
yeah, if you could maybe just move the slides, I'll talk it, and then I'll share the screen when I into the demo.
Perfect, that works.
So on reports, if you think of a non-cross country race, especially with regards to publishing, the overall finish list, publishing to RunSignup. In cross country, that report is still quite important because the overall finish list. So at the scored event level, scored event for cross country and race that you do within the meet are, pretty much 1-to-1. So if you have a meet where you have 4 races, which would be pretty typical, maybe if it's high school, varsity boys, varsity girls, JV boys, JV girls, you would have 4 scored events set up for that. And automatically there would be 4 finish list, just standard finish list, for the race, and that gets published to RunSignup, and that becomes the finish list at RunSignup, what you would see in the normal drop downs. And then for the actual team results, you'll see that there's a new kind of report section when you're set up for cross country or any kind of team scoring, and it's a team, I think team finish list. We'll see it in a minute. I think that's what it's called. The team finish list is, you'll definitely need to add reports for the 4 team finish lists, and then those become the basis for the team scoring that happens at RunSignup, or basically that replicates at RunSignup the team scoring that you did within RaceDay scoring. All right, so let's advance to the next slide. And okay, so so as far as the kind of new sections that you'll have available for team scoring, if you're familiar with Race Director, when you go to cross-country meets, cross-country scoring, it's those same 3 sections that you see at the listed there: team detail, team summary, team finish list. So team detail being in order of team finishers, the team, and then underneath the team, the list of finishers. Team summary is pretty much the same as team detail. It just doesn't show a list of the finishers within teams. So that's more of a, if there's 8 teams that finished in the race, you're going to see those 8 finish line, or those 8 lines on the report summarizing the finishers. And then team finish list is just the finish list for that specific race. Additionally, there's a report section needed if you're going to be publishing NCAA results to Direct Athletics TIFers, and I'll show you where that's found when I do a demo. All right, so yeah, and here's the way the team detail looks. There's going to be a section per team, and at the top of the section it shows you how that team placed, and then there's the list of, in the very first team that had 11 finishers. And when you see the score, that we use the same convention that you saw in Race Director for those that were displaced. Yeah, Chris, that was a good explanation. I always fumble trying to explain displacement to timers that are just getting into cross country and don't understand it. So that shows there that the first 7 factored into the scoring, or the points that are assigned, and the last 4 were not in the scoring at all. Yeah, go ahead to the next one, which would be the team summary probably. So the team summary is just showing 1 line per team. So Wiley College was they finished in first place with 38 points. And then you see if you added up 1 + 4 + 8 + 10 + 15, I'm sure you'd come up with 38. Also shows the average time. All right, go ahead. And then the team finish list is just a finish list showing what happened at the finish line at that race. Here's the sequence of finishers. All right, next. All right, so building cross-country reports. I can't quite remember what this shows, but go ahead and advance to that. So you'd use the build report button, and after you select the events to be used, maybe that you're producing the college women report, you'll see these new sections when it's cross-country to select from. One thing that's important about it, as you're building these reports, you will see all of the team types that you have set up. So if you were if you wanted to produce a report only for NCAA, you would select only NCAA for the team types that you want included in this report. If you select, it's important to understand this difference. If you select more than one, it means that we're going to combine this report across those two classifications. So you won't get a separate section for each of those team classifications. You will get everybody from those two combined into a. So for example, in this report, you would probably title it NAIA/D3 combined. If you wanted to show each one separately, you would just produce two sections, one only with NAIA and one only with Division 3. So it's important to know that selecting multiples here means I want to combine them. All right, go ahead. All right, run sign up results. Let's kind of skip by this. I'm going to show this in the demo. And I'll show this as well, how the the publishing works. Yep, and I'll show this as well in the demo. Same with this. Same with this. Same with this. I'll explain TFERs in the demo as well, as far as the steps that are needed. Actually, this is good. So I'm not going to go to this point in the demo. If those of you familiar with TFERs understand that you actually, through the software, log into TFERs, and they have specific information that they want to know about the scored events that you'll be publishing. So RaceDay Scoring provides all of that for you. It does all of the integration through the Direct Athletics APIs. And you're presented only with what needs to be filled in. Same here. This is just more of stuff, setup stuff that's requested by TFERs. And so, yeah, including when you actually through RaceDay Scoring get logged into TFERs, you'll see the meets that are assigned to you as a Direct Athletics user. In this case, we have these 4 races that we can use for testing. All right. Okay, so Chris alluded to this, a fairly common requirement in cross-country high school is letting coaches wait until the day of the race and then putting the varsity runners on the line that they want to. They're making these last-minute decisions. So in RaceDay Scoring, we use data actions, and we set up some data actions. We know that the varsity race starts at 8 o'clock, so there'll be finishers probably between 8:15 and 8:45. So we'll set up a data action saying if there are finish reads in that span of time between 8:15 and 8:45, switch them to the boys varsity. So when you run into that requirement and you're unsure about how to do it, just use the get help, and we'll guide you through that process. All right, that's more about where the data actions are set and how to set the data actions and what the data actions themselves look like. In this case, it's timestamps between 8:20 a.m. and 8:46 a.m. And we're going to switch that anybody in that time frame to the college women, to the event college women. All right. All right. So let me see if I can start doing the sharing.
And just before we do that, I'm just going to show, because a couple of people asked, there are step-by-step and questions and things like that in this help.racedayscoring.com. And what Roger mentioned previously is the get help button in the top right.
Okay. Can everyone see my screen? Or Chris, can you?
Yeah, I can see it.
All right. So let's maybe go through cross country. I'll go from top to bottom down the setup. The home screen for cross country doesn't look any different than it does for your normal 5K, 10K. in this case, so this would, the typical life cycle would be generally in cross country, you're getting, you know, you're probably getting your participant data from the schools in Excel or CSV format. The number of columns you need in your spreadsheet are fairly small. First name, last name, generally and obviously the gender, school, age, class or year, usually one or the other, freshman, sophomore, junior, things like that. So some way to identify what class they're in or what year they're in, and the team they're on. Often it's that simple, maybe 5 columns. And so the participant data import certainly supports that. That's all that's required to get cross-country set up. The import works in a way where the teams will automatically be added. If it's a race where there's more than one team classification, maybe Division I, Division II, you will need to have which division the team is in your spreadsheet. But generally, it's that simple. So if we look at the participant data, if we look at a typical participant in this race, you'll see no need for birth date, no need for age. Obviously, we need gender. Don't really need email or address information. You see a couple additional columns that will show up for cross country. These two here, TFERS ID, if it's NCAA. If it's a high school meet, this is probably going to be empty. School year. This is totally up to you. You can be alpha or numeric, however you want to do that. The event they're in, and that's basically it. It's pretty thin participant data setup that's needed. As far as scoring, I know it happens. It happened a little bit more frequently with COVID, but rarely is there a start line. It's almost always, you know, cross country is almost finish line only. It's all clock time or gun time. So the timing location setup is almost always that simple. There's only a single finish line, even if it's a meet where there's multiple races. In the race itself, in this case, there were 2 races. There was a college women that went off at, you know, around 8 a.m. and college men that went, you know, just before 9 o'clock. Not a time start. The only timing location in play is the finish line, scored by clock time. This is Chris went into a lot of detail about where the scoring options are set. And that's about it on the scored event level. Rarely would there be corrals, or certainly can be if it's could be segments. If it's a 5K and maybe you've got reads at the mile marks, you'd have setup segment setup. You know, never or would there be age group setup, but on this screen here is where the team types are set up. So in this case, this is how we handle the unattached runners. We put them in a separate team class. There's a change coming up to make how you handle unattached runners a lot more flexible than it currently is. Data actions here is where you would set up if you want to move people from scored event to scored event based on their finish time. But reporting. So in this case, these 2 reports here are the 2 reports that were created automatically for you when the scored event was saved. And as far as publishing the RunSignup, this is just your classical, you know, result setup for the finish list. And
on that same note, when you're creating it, you know, most of you are going to be creating these events for from scratch, not creating an event at RunSignup and pulling it down. And so while you're building the event, just keep in mind on step 1 of that event build, you have the option. It's a button to click, and it says create an event at RunSignup. If you do not create that event at RunSignup, then there's nowhere for the data to push up to. So you're not going to be able to set up autosave settings and things like that if there's no event at RunSignup to push them through. Now, that does not mean you have to have a registration open or anything like that. All it means is now that there's a kind of a skeleton or a shell of an event at RunSignup, so we can drop result sets up there for live results.
Yeah, and I misspoke earlier. The setup for cross-country reporting and publishing to RunSignup is actually much simpler than what I explained. Really, and James can come on and correct me if I'm wrong here. Really, all you need to do is set up a report where you select the scored event, and it's this key section here, team finish list. And I think that this team finish list is the key one for publishing. So
that's correct.
As you can see, this report must be published to RunSignup for team results to display. And because that section is included in these 2 reports here, when we go to view results at RunSignup, we see the finish list the way we would normally see it for any race that you do at RunSignup, with some nice improvements. I mean, it includes the year, the team name, and this handy little guide here that shows you the actual team members. It's a little shortcut. And you'll get this intermediate pop-up when there are multiple team classes to select from, or multiple races, I should say. And then under team results is where we'll see in the drop down here, we see 2 different choices here because we had 2 different team types, or we had 2 different races. So we see the 2 selections here, for one for college men and one for college women. So this also gives you some nice drill-in capabilities to see the overall team members. If you and then back on the individual results, as you drill into a team member, you'll see all the team scoring data included in the participant level drill down there as well. And best of all, the results you see at RunSignup will agree with what you maybe print or published at the race itself. So this whole scoring and publishing is very stable now. I think that's it, Chris.
Yeah, I think so too.
So Roger, coming from race director to race day scoring, can you just speak for a few minutes about the mapping of the world from race director to race day scoring and kind of how you approach that, in terms of team classifications and things? Can you just share with the community going from race director to race day scoring? Yeah.
Yeah. In fact, you might have noticed we have a little bit of a shift in terminology between if you've ever scored, if you've ever used RunSignup for just 5K, 10K type team, corporate team maybe scoring, where you always had to remember everything at RunSignup was group types, and race director, it was always team classifications. When we moved to cross country, we felt that getting back more back to the team nomenclature made sense. So when if you're a race director timer, team types and team classes are synonymous. So in race director, it's the same thing. If you had these 2 different levels based on school size, you would have set up 2 different team classes. Where it gets complicated is between scored events and team classes. Sometimes races want to get, or meets they want to get interesting. What would happen if we combined everybody? What would happen if we combined races, or if we combined team classifications, or separated one but not the other? So I think that was probably one of the biggest challenges in building this in race day scoring, is we really had to make sure that we had all of those capabilities as far as combining or not combining. And I think we've done a good job in race day scoring of giving you the flexibility of showing things separated or showing things together. A lot of times, some of the smaller races are the most complicated. We had a timer send us their most complicated race. There weren't that many schools or that many races, but in one race they were running boys and girls together because they didn't have that many. In another race they weren't. In other races they weren't. And in some races they were combined. They wanted to ignore the team classifications, and other races they didn't. So that was a really good example for us to use in our testing, because even though it was somewhat of a smaller race, it was, often the size of the race and the complexity are inversely related. A lot of times your most complicated races are your smaller races, and that was the case there. So it's, I think, well, and we've been through a season now, and I don't think we've seen a requirement that we haven't been able to meet.
So on that front, one thing to bring up, and if Roger, you click over on the team finisher report, athletic.net obviously is a really important place to publish your results. You don't have to use RunSignup results. You don't need to, if you wanted to just time everything local race, just deal with athletic.net, no issues. You don't have to use the team results, and then you can just export your stuff directly to athletic.net. We do have mile split also on the radar. Right now, we've only had really one request for that. So the athletic.net was more important. We got that done. We got the TFRs done. And then the other thing that was mentioned here today was the support coming before cross country starts this fall. We're going to have that Finish Links event integration for you. So those are our main integration points.
Right. Yeah. Now, on the topic of TFRs, for TFRs, you would, so in this case, you would what they really wanted to show at TFRs was 4 different finish lists. We had 2 different team classifications. What are they? We had the NAIA in the Division 3. So we really wanted to show all of those at TFRs. So and to do that, to accomplish that, we really need 4 report sections. One for NAIA women, another one that's women for the other division, and then we do something very similar for the men's race. So eventually we would save this report with those 4 sections, 2 male, 2 female, 1 each for each team classification. And then once we do the publishing, all 4 sections will go to TFRs. Just like in Race Director, TFRs is not anything that you're publishing in real time as the race is ongoing. Almost always, if it's a Saturday morning race, you let everything get settled out, make all of your adjustments, and then sometime Saturday afternoon, you probably build your TFRs and send it to TFRs.
One other thing mentioned here today, again, we understand that cross country is very, as Chris said, atypical to have a registration system. We definitely understand that. I wanted to highlight the aspect that RunSignup has invested in free software for you to score cross country. when you go to do your suite license every year as a renewal, you'll find that there's language in there that says you just completely disregard any cross-country numbers in that suite license. So it's another way that we're investing and providing the software for your cross-country events and supporting team event, collegiate events. So just wanted to kind of mention that it's not part of your suite license at all.
Yeah, I guess the last thing I'd mention, if you're about to embark on cross country for the first time on race day scoring, when you think you have everything set up, don't forget, just use get help. In the message, so this is what the meet looks like. Please take a look at my setup, and we'll be happy to do that. That's it for me, Chris.
Yeah, I think that that covers all of it. So again, we thank you guys for joining us today. If you do have questions and you're in an event on Roger's screen, just a reminder, that Get Help button in the top right. If you click the Get Help button, it sends a backup to our support team. And then if you have additional questions or you want a deeper dive into something, feel free to reach out to me, and I'll send a link to my calendar, and we can schedule something if you have specific things that need to be looked at. If it's super specific, I'm gonna talk to you, and then we're gonna get a backup, and we're gonna have the developers look at it to make sure that we support what you're looking for. But we're here to support you. We're here to help with the events and help train you so you have a successful not only race season but cross country season too. So thanks so much for being here, and we appreciate it. We are not doing a Timer Tip Tuesday next week, as we are in the process of prepping for our summer symposium. So for those of you that don't know about it, the summer symposium is in, I believe it's 2 weeks from today, I think is right. And that's going to be up in Philadelphia. And it's a great learning experience, networking time, and great time to see some of your industry friends. So hopefully we'll be able to see some of you guys at that point. And with that being said, thanks so much for being here, and we look forward to chatting with you soon. Take care.